I am Everett. I'm 34 years old, and my father slammed my head into a marble pillar because I refused to let him steal the home I built with my own 2 hands. Before I tell you how that single moment of violence ended his empire and started my real life, I need you to do me a favor. Let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. It started with a sound. Ting, ting, ting. The sound of a silver spoon tapping against a crystal champagne flute. It's a sound that is supposed to signal joy, a toast, a celebration. But standing there in the shadows of the Summit Crown's grand ballroom, hearing that sharp, high-pitched ring, I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. My stomach turned over, heavy and cold, like I'd swallowed a stone. The Summit Crown was the kind of place my father, Conrad, loved. It was suffocatingly expensive. The air conditioning was set too low. The scent of thousands of imported white lilies was thick enough to choke you. And the chandeliers overhead were massive, glittering monstrosities that probably cost more than I made in 5 years as a restoration architect. I wasn't sitting at the head table. I wasn't even sitting at a family table. I was standing near the service entrance, nursing a glass of lukewarm water, watching the ecosystem of wealth and pretense that my family thrived in. My father, Conrad, stood up. He looked every inch the titan of industry he pretended to be. He was wearing a custom tuxedo that hid his paunch, his face flushed with expensive scotch and the adoration of the crowd. He parked his brand new Rolls-Royce Phantom right out front, taking up 3 spaces, just so everyone knew the king had arrived. Beside him sat my mother, Vivian. She was smiling that frozen, pageant queen smile she had perfected over 40 years of marriage. And next to her was the groom, my younger brother, Preston, the golden child. He was leaning back in his chair, looking bored, swirling his drink. He had never worked a hard day in his life, yet he was the vice president of my father's development firm. Then there was Camille, the bride. She looked beautiful, terrified, and expensive. Friends, family, esteemed investors, Conrad boomed, his voice amplified by the microphone. The room went silent. Today, we celebrate not just a union of 2 hearts, but the future of our legacy. He paused for effect. He was good at this. He was a salesman before he was a father. Preston has always been my pride, Conrad continued, and I saw my mother squeeze Preston's hand. I felt a familiar ache in my chest, a dull throb I had learned to ignore since I was 7 years old. And for such a special son, and his lovely new bride, a simple check would not suffice. I shifted my weight. My work boots, which I had polished until they shone but still looked out of place against the Italian leather shoes of the other guests, felt heavy. I just wanted this to be over. I wanted to go back to my house, sit on my porch, and listen to the silence. For my wedding gift to this happy couple, Conrad announced, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it and held up a shiny, brass key. I am thrilled to give them the keys to the fully renovated, historic estate on Juniper Avenue. The room erupted in applause. People gasped. "Oh, how generous!" Someone whispered near me. "That house is a masterpiece," said another. My heart stopped. The world tilted on its axis. The clapping sounded like thunder, distant and muffled. Couldn't breathe. The house on Juniper Avenue. My house. Not the company's house. Not Conrad's house. Mine. I had bought that property 3 years ago. It was a rotting shell then. A condemned Victorian structure that the city was about to bulldoze. I used every dime of my savings for the down payment. I spent every weekend, every holiday, and every evening after work for 3 years restoring it. I sanded the floors until my fingers bled. I rewired the electricity. I restored the crown molding by hand. I planted the garden. It was the only thing in my life that was truly mine. It was my sanctuary, and my father just gave it away like it was a party favor. I saw Preston's face light up. He knew. He knew exactly whose house that was. He looked at me across the room, over the heads of the cheering crowd, and he smirked. It was a small, cruel lifting of the lips that said, "You lose again, Everett." Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was quiet, It was the sound of a cable finally fraying under too much tension. I didn't think. I didn't calculate. I just walked. I pushed off the wall and marched toward the stage. The applause was dying down as people noticed me. I was the dark stain on their perfect white picture. The black sheep in the cheap suit. "Everett?" my mother hissed as I approached the head table. Her smile faltered. "Sit down." I ignored her. I walked right up to the microphone stand where my father stood, beaming like a benevolent god. I stepped onto the platform. The height difference put me eye to eye with him. "The house on Juniper Avenue is not yours to give, Conrad," I said. My voice was calm, but it echoed through the speakers, booming across the silent ballroom. The silence that followed was absolute. You could hear the ice melting in the glasses. Conrad's smile didn't drop, but his eyes turned into two chips of flint. "Cold. Dead. Everett," he said, a jovial chuckle in his voice, playing it off for the crowd. "We've had a bit too much to drink, haven't we? Let's get you some water." He reached out to grab my shoulder, his grip like a vice. He dug his thumb into my collarbone, a warning pinch he used to do when I was a child to make me stop crying in public. "I'm sober, Dad," I said, pulling away from his grip. I looked at the crowd. "That house is in my name. I bought it. I restored it. It is my home, and Preston isn't setting one foot inside it." A murmur rippled through the crowd. This wasn't part of the script. The wealthy elite of our city didn't do scenes. They did backroom deals and silent betrayals. They didn't do public confrontations. Conrad stepped closer. He invaded my personal space, blocking me from the audience. He leaned in, his mouth close to my ear. To the crowd, it looked like a father consoling a son. But I heard the venom. "You ungrateful little rat," he whispered. The smell of scotch was overpowering. "You will smile. You will hug your brother. And you will hand over the deed tomorrow morning. Or I will bury you. I will ruin your career. I will make sure you never work as an architect in this state again." I looked at him. I looked at the man who had loomed over my entire life like a dark cloud. I looked at the man who I had spent 34 years trying to please, trying to impress, trying to get just 1 ounce of respect from. And I realized, for the first time, that I hated him. "No," I said. It was a simple word, but it hit him like a slap. "What did you say to me?" he hissed. I said no. I said louder this time. "It is my house." I turned to walk away. I was done. I was leaving the wedding, leaving the family, leaving it all. But Conrad didn't let people walk away. Narcissists don't let you have the last word. I felt a massive shove from behind. It wasn't a stumble. It was a tackle. Conrad, in a blind rage, threw his entire body weight into my back. I flew forward. I didn't even have time to put my hands up. The last thing I saw was the gray veins of the marble pillar rushing toward my face. Crack. The sound was sickening. It sounded like a dry branch snapping in winter. But it was my skull. Pain exploded behind my eyes. A white-hot flash of lightning that blinded me. Then the floor came up to meet me. I was on the carpet. The pattern of the rug was swirling. I tried to push myself up, but my arms wouldn't work. "Oh my God!" someone screamed. "He's bleeding. Look at the blood." I touched my forehead. My hand came away wet and red. Thick, dark red. I looked up. My vision was blurry, swimming in and out of focus. I saw Conrad standing over me. He wasn't looking at me with concern. He was adjusting his cufflinks. He looked annoyed. "Get him up!" Conrad barked at the security guards. "He tripped. Get him out of here before he ruins the carpet." "He didn't trip," a voice shouted from the crowd. "You shoved him. He's drunk." My mother's voice, high and shrill. She was standing over me now, but she wasn't looking at my wound. She was looking at the guests, her hands fluttering. "Please, everyone. Everett has a history of spells. He just slipped. The band. Play music." The band hesitated, then started playing a jagged, awkward jazz tune. I lay there, bleeding onto the expensive wool carpet of the Summit Crown. I watched the shoes of the people I was related to. Shiny, clean shoes, stepping back to avoid my blood. In the distance, near the cake table, I saw a young man holding a phone up. He wasn't filming the bride. He was filming me. He had a red light on his phone case. Recording. I didn't know it then, as the darkness started to creep into the edges of my vision. But that little red light was the only weapon I had left. "Call an ambulance," a stranger shouted. "No ambulance," Conrad roared. "We'll take him in the car. Keep this quiet." That was the last thing I heard before the blackness swallowed me whole. The sound of my father caring more about his reputation than his son's life. Beep, beep, beep. The sound was rhythmic and annoying. Pulled me out of the dark. I smelled antiseptic and bleach. The smell of a hospital. I tried to open my eyes, but my head felt like it had been split open with an axe. A wave of nausea rolled over me. "Easy, Mr. Ashford. Don't move." A nurse was adjusting an intravenous bag next to me. She looked kind, tired. "Where?" My voice sounded like gravel. "St. Mary's Hospital," she said. "You have a severe concussion and a laceration on your forehead. 20 stitches." I reached up. My head was wrapped in thick bandages. I touched the spot gingerly. It throbbed in time with my heartbeat. As I lay there, waiting for the painkillers to kick in, the present faded away, and the past came rushing back. Concussions do that to you. They shake loose the memories you try to keep locked in the basement. I was 10 years old. I was sitting at the kitchen table, drawing. I had spent a week sketching a bridge. It was intricate, detailed. I was so proud of it. Conrad walked in. He was on the phone, yelling at a contractor. He slammed the phone down and looked at me. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I drew a bridge, Dad," I said, holding it up. He took the paper. He looked at it for a second, then crumpled it into a ball and tossed it into the trash can. "Architects are just glorified laborers, Everett," he said, pouring himself a drink. "They work for men like me. Don't dream of building things. Dream of owning the men who build things. Be like Preston." Preston was 6 then. He was sitting on the floor, smashing toy cars together. "Preston knows how to take what he wants," Conrad said. The memory shifted. I was 31. I was standing in front of the house on Juniper Avenue. It was a disaster. The roof had caved in. The porch was rotting. The windows were boarded up with plywood covered in graffiti. The yard was a jungle of weeds and rusted metal. But I saw the bones. I saw the Victorian lines, the solid oak beams, the history. I had gone to Conrad's office the day before. I asked for a loan. Not a gift. A loan with interest. I wanted to buy the house and flip it or maybe live in it. I had a business plan. Conrad laughed. He actually laughed until he choked on his cigar smoke. "That dump?" he sneered. "I'm buying that block next year to bulldoze it for condos. Why would I lend you money to buy trash? You have no vision, Everett. That's your problem. You like old, broken things because you feel sorry for them." He refused the loan. So I did it the hard way. I cashed out my retirement account. I sold my truck. I moved into a studio apartment the size of a closet to save rent. I bought the house. For 3 years, that house was my life. I learned plumbing. On YouTube, I sourced period-correct tiles from salvage yards. I spent my weekends covered in drywall dust and paint. Every nail I drove into that wood was an act of rebellion. Every wall I plastered was a statement that I didn't need him. I remembered the day I finished the library. I had restored the original mahogany bookshelves. The sun was streaming through the stained glass window I had repaired. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. And then, the most painful memory of all. Just 2 weeks ago, my mother, Vivian, had come over. She had never visited the house during the renovation. She said the dust aggravated her allergies. But now that it was finished, she came. She walked through the rooms, trailing her hand over the polished banisters. "It's lovely, Everett," she said. "Really, you did a surprising job." "Thanks, Mom," I said, feeling a rare warmth. Maybe she finally saw me. "Listen," she said, casually opening her purse. "I have a favor. The wedding planner needs a place to store some of the larger decorations for a few days before the ceremony. The venue has no storage. Since your house is so close to the summit crown, could you create a temporary access code? Just so we can drop things off in the garage. I hesitated. My house was my fortress. I didn't let anyone in. It's just for the flowers and the arch Everett, she said, giving me that look. The look that said, don't be difficult. Don't be the bad son. Okay, I said. I opened the SmartLock app and created a temporary code labeled MOM. Just the garage, Mom. Of course, darling. She kissed my cheek. Just the garage. Lying in the hospital bed, the realization hit me harder than the marble pillar. She hadn't needed storage. She had shared the access code with Conrad. Or Preston. They had probably sent appraisers in while I was at work. They had measured the rooms. They had planned the furniture. They had probably even brought Camille over to approve her new gift. They had been planning to steal it from under me for weeks. And they used my own mother to get the code. The betrayal burned in my stomach. It wasn't just greed. It was a complete lack of respect for my existence. To them, I wasn't a person. I was a placeholder. A steward of assets until the golden child was ready to claim them. Mr. Ashford? The nurse was back. She was holding a tablet. Her expression was strange. She wasn't looking at me like a patient anymore. She was looking at me as if I were famous. How are you feeling? She asked. Like I got hit by a train. I mumbled. What time is it? It's 10 a.m. Sunday, she said. You've been out for about 12 hours. She hesitated, then turned the tablet toward me. I think you need to see this, she said softly. It's everywhere. On the screen was a video paused on a thumbnail. The title read, Billionaire Developer Assaults Son at Wedding. The Red Wedding. The view count was staggering. 5.2 million views. Press play, I whispered. I watched my life fall apart in ultra-high-definition resolution. The video was shaky at first, filmed vertically. It showed the back of my head as I walked to the stage. Then the zoom punched in. The audio was surprisingly clear. The house on Juniper Avenue is not yours to give, Conrad. It's mine. I heard my own voice. It sounded stronger than I remembered. Then the camera panned to Conrad. You could see the vein in his forehead bulging. You could see the malice. The whisper was inaudible on the video, but the body language was clear. He was threatening me. Then the shove. On video, it looked even worse. It was brutal, violent, unprovoked. I flew forward, and the camera tracked my fall. The sound of my head hitting the pillar was a loud, sickening thud that made the nurse wince. The cameraman gasped. Holy crap! The camera dipped, then came back up. It showed me on the floor. The blood. The bright red pool spreading on the white carpet. It showed Conrad standing over me, fixing his cuffs. It showed my mother frantically waving at the band to play. The video ended with a close-up of Preston taking a sip of his drink, looking bored, while his brother lay unconscious 10 feet away. I scrolled down to the comments. There were thousands. That's Conrad Ashford of Pioneer Ridge Developments. I know him. What a monster. Did you hear the crack? Oh my God. The brother didn't even move. The whole family is trash. Hashtag Justice for Everett is trending on Twitter right now. My hands were shaking. I wasn't just a victim of assault. I was a meme. I was a hashtag. Who filmed this? I asked. A guy named Sawyer, the nurse said. He's in the waiting room. He says he won't leave until he talks to you. Send him in. A moment later, a young guy in a hoodie walked in. He looked about 22. He looked nervous. Hey, he said. I'm Sawyer. I'm the one who filmed it. Why? I asked. You were at the wedding. Sawyer pulled a chair up. I wasn't really a guest. I was a +1 of a cousin's friend. I came because, well, I wanted to see the man who ruined my dad. I frowned. What? My dad was a subcontractor for Pioneer Ridge 10 years ago, Sawyer said, his voice hard. He did the drywall for the West Side project. Conrad Ashford refused to pay the final invoice. He claimed the work was subpar. It wasn't. He tied my dad up in court until we ran out of money for a lawyer. My dad went bankrupt. He drank himself to death 2 years later. He looked at me, eyes burning. I went there to film him being a drunk slob. I wanted to put it online to embarrass him. I didn't expect this. Sawyer pointed at my head. But when I saw him hurt you, when I saw him do to his own son what he did to my dad, I knew I had to upload it. I didn't edit anything. The world needs to see who he really is. I looked at this kid, this stranger who had done more for me in 10 seconds than my family had done in a lifetime. Thank you, I said. Just then, my phone on the bedside table buzzed. Mom calling. My stomach clenched. I looked at the nurse. Can you stay? I'm right here, she said, stepping back but staying in the room. I answered. Hello, Everett. My mother's voice was frantic. Not worried frantic. Angry frantic. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? I'm in the hospital, Mom. I have 20 stitches. Oh, stop being dramatic, she snapped. Listen to me. Have you seen the internet? It's a disaster. The stock fell 12% in Friday's trading, and the merger with the Japanese investors is in jeopardy. I closed my eyes. Is that all you care about? The merger. Family is first, Everett, she yelled. We have to fix this. The police are coming to the hospital. Conrad spoke to the chief. You need to tell them you were drunk. Tell them you have vertigo. Tell them you tripped and your father tried to catch you. We've already drafted a statement for you. You want me to lie? I want you to protect this family. If your father gets charged, the banks will pull our credit lines. We could lose everything. The house, the cars, the club membership. Do you want to be responsible for destroying us? You stole my house, Mom, I said, my voice shaking. You tricked me. It's just a house, Everett. Preston needs it more. He's starting a family. You're single. You can build another one. You're good at that. That was it. The final nail. You can build another one. As if my labor, my pain, my life was just a renewable resource for them to harvest. Everett, are you listening? Yes, Mom. I'm listening, I said. My voice went eerily calm. And you should listen to me. Good. So when the police come, I'm going to tell them everything, I said. I'm going to press charges. You wouldn't dare, she hissed. We will cut you off. You won't get a dime of inheritance. I don't want your money, I said. And I don't have a family anymore. I hung up. I blocked the number. I looked at the nurse. I felt lighter. The pain in my head was still there, but the weight on my chest was gone. Is the officer here? I asked. Officer Redmond is in the hallway, she said. Send the police in, I said, and call my lawyer. Half an hour later, my hospital room looked like a war room. Officer Redmond, a stern man with a notepad, had taken my statement. He watched the video 3 times, his jaw tightening each time. He took photos of my injuries. He didn't say much, but when he left, he said, We'll be paying your father a visit. But the real work began when Grady walked in. Grady was my best friend. He was a general contractor, a guy built like a vending machine with a heart of gold. He walked in, took one look at my face, and his fists clenched. I'm going to kill him, Grady growled. I'm going to drive my excavator through his front door. No excavators, Grady, I said. We do this legally. Did you bring him? Behind Grady walked a man who looked like he was carved out of ice. He was wearing a suit that cost more than my truck. He carried a leather briefcase and had eyes that scanned the room for weaknesses. Desmond Wexford. Desmond was the most feared corporate litigation lawyer in the state. He didn't just win cases, he dismantled opponents. He had a personal vendetta against corrupt developers, ever since a shoddy construction job killed his sister years ago. Everett, Desmond said, not offering a handshake but a nod. I saw the video. It's compelling. But in court, compelling isn't enough. We need leverage. He assaulted me, I said. That's criminal court, Desmond said, opening his briefcase. That puts him in jail, maybe. But you want your house back, and you want to ensure he can't bury you financially like he threatened. We need to hit him where it hurts. His wallet. Desmond pulled out a laptop. I've been doing some digging since Grady called me this morning, Desmond said. Pioneer Ridge Developments is a house of cards. What do you mean? I asked. He drives a Rolls-Royce. He just threw a $500,000 wedding. It's all leverage, Desmond explained. He's over-leveraged on the downtown plaza project. He's bleeding cash. The banks are nervous. That's why he needed the merger. And that's why he needed your house. My house is worth maybe $2 million, I said. That's pocket change to him. Not for collateral, Desmond corrected. The bank sent Everett an ownership verification notice after someone submitted the Juniper Avenue estate as a family asset. With Everett's authorization, I asked the bank's fraud team to preserve and review the application. Conrad needed that unencumbered property to secure a bridge loan and keep the company afloat until Monday. He can't do that, I said. The deed is in my name. Exactly, Desmond smiled. It was a shark's smile. Which means if he submitted that house as collateral, he committed bank fraud. But we need to prove he knew he didn't have the right. We need to prove premeditation. The smart lock, I said suddenly. What? My house? I said, sitting up too fast. The room spun. I have a smart lock system. It logs every entry. My mother asked for a temporary access code 2 weeks ago. If they went in to appraise it, there will be a record. Grady pulled out his phone. I have the app on my phone too, remember? Since I helped you install the doors. Grady opened the app. He scrolled back. Bingo, Grady whispered. What? I asked. 2 weeks ago. Tuesday? 10 a.m. entry code. MOM. Duration. 45 minutes. Grady read. But look at this. Wednesday? 11 a.m. entry code. MOM. Duration 2 hours. And again on Friday. Who was with her? Desmond asked. I can check the camera logs, Grady said. Wait, the cloud feed went offline on Wednesday. Someone unplugged the router. Does the lock log show who opened it? I asked. No, just the code, Grady said. But the doorbell camera has a memory card. It stores a local copy even when the network is down. Grady tapped furiously. Wednesday, 11 a.m. The local recording starts when the front door opens. It shows your mother, Conrad, Preston, and a man carrying an appraiser's case. Grady opened the locally stored clip. The picture was clear, and the camera's microphone had captured their voices even though the router was disconnected. The recording was timestamped Wednesday at 11:15 a.m. Conrad pointed toward the interior and said, "This wall needs to go. We'll expand the master suite." Vivian replied, "Make sure the nursery is near the bedroom. Camille wants a nursery." Then Conrad told the appraiser, "Don't worry about the structure. Just get the valuation report to the bank by Friday. I need that loan approved." Silence filled the hospital room. "He brought an appraiser in," I said, my voice cold. "He was selling off parts of my house before he even gave it to Preston." Desmond Wexford closed his laptop. The snap sounded like a gunshot. "That," Desmond said, "is conspiracy to commit bank fraud. And since he used the phone and email to arrange it, it's wire fraud. We have him. So what do we do?" Grady asked. "Go to the police?" "Not yet." Desmond stood up. "The police have the assault charge. That's good. But if we want to destroy him completely, we need to catch him in the act." "How?" I asked. "I just got a notification," Desmond said, checking his phone. "Conrad has scheduled an emergency reconciliation brunch for tomorrow morning at his estate. He's invited the top investors and the bank representatives to calm them down. He's going to spin the story that you've forgiven him and that the house transfer is proceeding." I looked at my bandaged reflection in the window. "He thinks I'm still the scared little boy," I said. "Are you?" Desmond asked. I touched the stitches on my forehead. I thought about the bridge drawing in the trash. I thought about the no I said at the wedding. "No," I said. "I'm not." "Good," Desmond said. "Get dressed, Everett. We're going to brunch." "Everett," Conrad said. His voice was tight, but he put on a smile. I didn't expect you. You should be resting. Conrad's estate was a sprawling mansion in the hills, gated and guarded. The driveway was lined with luxury cars, Ferraris, Porsches, and of course, the Rolls-Royce Phantom, gleaming in the sunlight like a trophy. Grady drove my battered Ford F-150 right up to the gate. The guard hesitated, but when he saw Desmond Wexford in the passenger seat and Officer Redmond in the patrol car behind us, the gate opened. We parked right next to the Rolls-Royce. The contrast was poetic. My truck, covered in drywall dust and dents, next to his pristine machine. We walked to the back patio where the brunch was being held. It was a scene of aggressive normalcy. Waiters were serving mimosas. My mother was laughing a little too loudly. Conrad was holding court near the pool, talking to a man in a gray suit, Mr. Norcross, the chief risk officer from the bank. Preston and Camille were there, looking hungover and anxious. When we stepped onto the patio, the conversation died instantly. It rippled outward like a wave of silence until the only sound was the fountain splashing. I was wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. The bandage on my head was stark white. "Everett," Conrad said. His voice was tight, but he put on a smile. I didn't expect you. You should be resting." He walked toward me, arms open, playing the concerned father for the bank's benefit. "I'm so glad you're okay. We were all so worried." "Cut the crap, Conrad," I said. The crowd gasped. Conrad froze. "Excuse me? I'm not here to hug you," I said, my voice steady. "I'm here to return something." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. It was a copy of the deed to the Juniper Avenue house. "This is the deed," I said, holding it up. "It has my name on it. Only my name. Everett, this isn't the time," my mother hissed, rushing over. "We have guests." "We know." Desmond Wexford stepped forward. "That's why we're here. Mr. Norcross, isn't it?" The banker, Mr. Norcross, looked confused. "Yes. Who are you?" "I'm Desmond Wexford, representing Everett Ashford. I believe you're here to finalize the bridge loan for Pioneer Ridge, secured by the Ashford family assets." "That's confidential," Mr. Norcross said, frowning. "It's about to be public record," Desmond said. He signaled to Sawyer, who had snuck in with us. Sawyer set up a portable projector on the patio table and pointed it at the white wall of the house. "What is this?" Conrad shouted. "Security. Get them out." "Officer Redmond," Desmond said calmly. "If anyone touches us, arrest them for obstruction." Officer Redmond stepped forward, hand on his belt. The security guards backed down. "Watch," Desmond said. The projector flared to life. First, the locally stored camera footage appeared. It showed Conrad entering my house with Vivian, Preston, and the appraiser. Then it captured Conrad saying, "I need that loan approved." "You broke into my house," I said to Conrad. "You trespassed." "I was inspecting family property." Conrad sputtered. "Then explain this." Desmond clicked a button. A document appeared on the wall. It was a loan application form from the bank. "This is the collateral agreement submitted on Friday," Desmond said. "It lists 45 Juniper Avenue as collateral. And here is the signature of the owner." The signature read, "Everett Ashford." "So," Conrad said, sweating now. "He signed it. He agreed to it last week. He's just having cold feet now because he wants more money." "I don't know," Preston stammered. Desmond zoomed in on the signature. "And besides," Desmond said, turning to look at Preston, "that doesn't look like Everett's handwriting. Everett's capital A in Ashford has a straight crossbar. This one has a high, curved crossbar. It is very distinctive." Desmond pulled up another document. A wedding certificate. Preston's signature was on it. The capital A in Ashford on Preston's wedding certificate had the same high, curved crossbar as the A in the forged signature. The silence on the patio was heavy, suffocating. "Preston," I said, looking at my brother, "did you sign my name?" Preston looked at Conrad. He looked terrified. He was sweating through his linen shirt. "I," Preston stammered. "Shut up, Preston." Conrad roared. He made me do it. Preston screamed, cracking instantly. He told me to practice your signature. He said it was just paperwork. He said you wouldn't mind. You idiot. Conrad lunged at Preston. Officer Redmond moved fast. He intercepted Conrad, grabbing his arm. Get off me, Conrad yelled. Do you know who I am? I own this town. Not anymore, Desmond said. Sawyer, play the video. The projector screen changed. It wasn't the blurry phone video this time. It was the security footage from the Summit Crown, provided by the hotel manager who hated Conrad's arrogance. High definition. Clear audio from the stage mics. We heard the whisper. You will smile or I will bury you. Then the shove. We saw Conrad's face contort with rage. We saw him deliberately plant his feet and drive his shoulder into my back. It wasn't a push. It was a tackle intended to hurt. The guests on the patio stared in horror. The brutality was undeniable. That's assault with intent to cause great bodily harm, Officer Redmond said. He spun Conrad around. Conrad Ashford, you are under arrest. And Preston Ashford, Redmond added, nodding to his partner who had just arrived, for forgery and fraud. Mr. Norcross, the banker, was on his phone. Cancel the transfer. Yes, immediately. Flag the accounts. All of them. It's fraud. The sound of handcuffs ratcheting shut was the loudest sound in the world. The next 10 minutes were a blur of chaos. Conrad was screaming threats. He threatened to sue the police, the bank, Desmond, and me. He was still screaming as they shoved him into the back of the squad car. He looked ridiculous in his polo shirt and boat shoes, red-faced and impotent. Preston was crying, actually sobbing. Camille, call my dad. Call someone. Camille just stood there, holding her mimosa, looking at him with absolute disgust. She took off her engagement ring, a massive diamond that was probably bought with company debt, and set it on the table. She walked away without a word. Then there was my mother. Vivian stood alone in the center of the patio. The guests were fleeing, rushing to their cars to avoid the scandal. The brunch was ruined. The empire was crumbling. She looked at me. Her eyes were filled with tears, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of loss. She was losing her status. She walked over to me. Everett, she sobbed, reaching for my hand. Please, tell them to stop. Tell them it was a mistake. They are your family. Your father, he's old. Jail will kill him. And Preston, he's just a boy. I looked at her hands. The hands that had held me when I was a baby. The hands that had also shared the access code to my house with the people who wanted to rob me. He's 30 years old, Mom, I said. He's not a boy. And Conrad isn't a father. But family comes first, she wailed. We have to stick together. I gently removed my hand from hers. You're right, I said. Family comes first. That's why I'm protecting myself. Because I'm the only family I have left. How can you be so cruel? She spat, her face twisting into ugliness. After everything we gave you? You gave me nothing but a concussion and a lifetime of insecurity, I said. I built the rest myself. I turned to Desmond and Grady. Let's go, I said. As we walked to the truck, I glanced at the Rolls-Royce still parked beside the drive. The bank had frozen the disputed transfer, but formal recovery would take time. 3 weeks later, after the required notices and review, the bank would repossess the massive, shiny car. Grady would send me a photo of it on a flatbed. It looked like a dead-beached whale. For now, I got into my Ford F-150. I started the engine. It rumbled to life, a rough, honest sound. I drove out of the gate, past the police cars, past the repo men, past the ruins of the Ashford dynasty. I didn't look back in the rearview mirror. Not once. 6 months. It's been exactly 180 days since the brunch that destroyed the Ashford dynasty. People ask me if it felt like a movie. They ask if it felt like an explosion. I tell them no. An explosion is loud and chaotic. What happened after the police cars drove away was more like a controlled demolition. It was slow, methodical, and dusty. But when the dust settled, The view was incredible. I am standing in the garden of the house on Juniper Avenue. It's a Tuesday morning. The air is crisp, smelling of damp earth and the jasmine I planted along the back fence. I'm holding a cup of coffee, black, no sugar, and watching a hummingbird hover over the feeder. My phone rings. It's not my mother screaming about stock prices. It's not my father threatening to bury me. It's a client. "Hey Everett," the voice says. "It's Mrs. Fairbanks, a lovely woman who hired me to restore her 1920s bungalow. I just wanted to say thank you. The way you fixed the molding in the dining room, it's like you brought the soul of the house back. You have a gift." "Thank you, Mrs. Fairbanks," I say, and I feel a warmth in my chest that no amount of approval from Conrad ever gave me. "I'll stop by on Thursday to check the varnish." I hang up. This is my life now. I opened my own firm, Ashford Restoration, 3 weeks after the arrest. I thought the scandal would ruin me. I thought the name Ashford was poison. But I was wrong. The video didn't just show a victim. It showed a man who stood his ground. Clients came to me not in spite of the video, but because of it. They wanted an architect who understood value, who fought for integrity. But peace didn't come overnight. We had to wade through the legal wreckage first. I remember sitting in Desmond Wexford's office about 3 months ago. The leather chairs were cold. The view of the city was gray. Desmond looked like a shark who had just eaten a very satisfying meal. "The plea deal is signed," Desmond told me, sliding a thick file across the mahogany desk. "Tell me," I said. "Conrad pleaded guilty to aggravated assault and 2 counts of wire fraud," Desmond said. "He wanted to avoid a jury trial. He knew the video was a nail in his coffin. He got 5 years in federal prison. 5 years. I thought I would feel happy. I thought I would want to pop a bottle of champagne. But I just felt tired. 5 years for a lifetime of abuse. It didn't seem like enough math, but it was enough to keep him away from me." "And Preston?" I asked. Desmond smirked. "Preston turned state's witness against his father to save his own skin. He admitted that Conrad coerced him into the forgery. Because he cooperated, he got 3 years of probation and community service. But he's barred from holding any executive position in a publicly traded company for 10 years. His career in finance is over." "He never had a career, Desmond," I said. "He had a nepotism pass." "True," Desmond nodded. "Oh, and the divorce is final. Camille didn't waste time. She took the jewelry, the wedding gifts that weren't seized by the FBI, and she's already dating a hedge fund manager in New York. Preston is currently living in a 1-bedroom apartment downtown. He's working as a shift manager at a car rental agency. It was a staggering fall. The golden child, who was supposed to inherit the kingdom, was now renting out economy sedans to tourists. But there was one loose end. One person we hadn't heard from. "What about my mother?" I asked. Desmond's face changed. The shark-like grin vanished, replaced by something that looked almost like pity. "That," Desmond said, leaning forward, "is the twist I didn't see coming. We found something during the forensic accounting of Conrad's assets. You know how Conrad was trying to cover the losses on the Downtown Plaza project?" "Yeah, he tried to steal my house," I said. "He needed more than just your house, Everett," Desmond said. "Your house was just the final plug in the dam. Before he came for you, he liquidated everything else. And I mean everything." Desmond opened a specific page in the file. He forged Vivian's signature on her retirement accounts. He cashed out her individual retirement account, her life insurance policy, and he took a second mortgage on their main estate without her knowing. He drained the joint accounts. He even liquidated the trust fund that was supposed to be for your future nieces or nephews. I stared at the numbers. Zeros. Rows and rows of zeros. "She's broke," I whispered. "Worse than broke," Desmond said. "The bank foreclosed on the main estate yesterday. The Internal Revenue Service is seizing the rest to pay back taxes. Vivian is walking away with nothing but the clothes on her back and a leased Lexus that's about to be repossessed." I sat back in the chair. My mother, the woman who worshipped the image of wealth. The woman who sacrificed her relationship with me to protect the family legacy. Her husband had stolen her future to save his own ego. Does she know? I asked. She knows now, Desmond said. She was served the eviction notice this morning. I left Desmond's office that day with a heavy heart. Not because I missed them, but because it was a tragic waste. A waste of life, of potential, of love. They had traded everything for status, and in the end, the status ate them alive. I went back to work. I focused on sanding floors and drafting blueprints. I focused on Grady, who had been promoted to my foreman. We were building something real. Then, yesterday happened. I was in my home office, the library I had restored with my own hands. The sun was setting, casting long golden shadows across the oak floor. My phone buzzed. A notification from the smart gate. Movement detected at front gate. I opened the app. The camera feed loaded. Standing there, gripping the iron bars of the gate I had installed, was a woman. At first, I didn't recognize her. She was wearing a trench coat that looked too big for her. Her hair, usually coiffed into a perfect helmet of blonde lacquer, was frizzy and pulled back in a messy bun. She wasn't wearing makeup. She looked 20 years older. It was Vivian. She pressed the intercom button. Her hand was shaking. Everett? Her voice crackled through the speaker. Everett, are you there? I know you're there. I see your truck. I sat in my chair, staring at the screen. My heart hammered against my ribs. The old instinct, the conditioned response to run and open the door, to fix it, to be the good son, flared up. I wanted to rush out there. But then I looked at the scar on my forehead. I touched the raised skin where the stitches had been. I pressed the talk button on my phone. What do you want, Vivian? I asked. I didn't call her mom. Couldn't. She flinched at the sound of my voice. She looked at the camera, her eyes wet and red-rimmed. Everett, please, she begged. Open the gate. It's freezing out here. It's 60 degrees, Vivian, I said. What do you want? I have nowhere to go, she sobbed. The tears started flowing, cutting tracks through the grime on her face. They took the house. They took the car. Conrad, that bastard, he took everything. I have no money, Everett. Not a cent. None of my friends will return my calls. I heard, I said calmly. You have plenty of room here, she said, her eyes shifting to the house behind the gate. This house, it's huge. You have 5 bedrooms. I just need a place to stay for a few weeks, just until I get back on my feet. I'm your mother, Everett. You can't leave me on the street. I watched her. I watched the woman who had stood over me while I bled on the carpet of the Summit Crown. I watched the woman who told me to lie to the police to save the company stock. I watched the woman who shared the access code to my sanctuary with the man who wanted to rob me. You had a home, I said. You had a family. You chose to protect the predator instead of the prey. You made your choice. I was a victim too, she screamed, her voice cracking. He lied to me too. He stole my money too. Yes, I said. He did. And when he hurt me, when he slammed my head into a wall, you didn't ask if I was okay. You asked me to protect the merger. You weren't a victim then, Vivian. You were an accomplice. I'm sorry, she wailed. She fell to her knees on the pavement. It was a pathetic, theatrical display, but it was also real desperation. I'm sorry, Everett. I'm sorry for everything. Please, just let me in. I'll cook. I'll clean. I won't get in your way. Just don't leave me alone. My finger hovered over the open gate button. It would be so easy. It would be the Christian thing to do. It would be the dutiful son thing to do. But then I remembered the lesson I had learned in the hospital. You cannot save people who are addicted to their own destruction. If I let her in, I wasn't saving her. I was just becoming her new host. She would bring the drama, the guilt, the manipulation back into my life. She would poison the air I had fought so hard to purify. I can't do that, I said. Everett, she screamed. I am your mother. I know, I said. And that's the tragedy of it. I will transfer some money to your account. Enough for a motel and food for a month. Call social services. Call a shelter. But you cannot come in here. This is my home. And you are not safe for me. No, Everett. Don't you dare. Goodbye, Vivian. I disconnected the call. I turned off the camera feed. I sat there in the silence of my library. Outside, I could hear her screaming my name for a few minutes. Then silence. Then the sound of shuffling feet walking away. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. Instead, I felt a massive weight lift off my shoulders. It was the final shackle falling to the floor. I had done it. I had said no to the ultimate guilt trip. I had protected my fortress. I stood up and walked to the window. The sun had set. The garden was bathed in the soft blue light of twilight. The house was quiet, solid, and safe. I was an orphan by choice, and I had never felt more whole. I'm sitting on my front porch now. It's been a year since the wedding. I'm drinking that coffee I mentioned earlier. The mug is warm in my hands. It's a cheap ceramic mug I bought at a thrift store, but I like it better than the crystal flutes at the Summit Crown. Preston is still working at the rental agency. I hear he's actually doing okay. He's learning what it means to work for a paycheck. We don't talk, but I don't wish him harm. I just wish him distance. Conrad is in a medium security prison. He sends me letters sometimes. I don't open them. I put them directly into the fireplace. I watch them burn, turning his words into ash and smoke that goes up the chimney and disappears into the sky. It's a ritual I've come to enjoy. Vivian is living in a small assisted living apartment funded by the state. I send a check every month, anonymous, through my lawyer to make sure she has the basics. But I never visit. Some bridges are meant to be burned so the enemy cannot follow you. I look at the house around me. When I bought this place, the foundation was cracked. The beams were rotting. Everyone told me to tear it down. They said it wasn't worth saving. But I knew that if you dug deep enough, if you cleared away the rot, if you reinforced the weak spots, you could build something that would last forever. Families are like houses. Sometimes the foundation is bad from the start. Sometimes the rot is too deep. You can't just paint over it. You can't just put up new wallpaper and pretend the walls aren't crumbling. Sometimes you have to grab a sledgehammer. You have to demo the whole thing. You have to stand in the rubble, coughing in the dust, and decide to build something new. It's scary. It's lonely. It hurts like hell. But sitting here, listening to the wind in the oak trees, knowing that nobody is going to come through that gate to hurt me, knowing that my bank account is mine, my home is mine, and my peace is mine, I know it was worth it. I built a family of my own. Not by blood, but by bond. Grady is coming over later for a barbecue. Desmond Wexford is stopping by with his husband for drinks. Mrs. Fairbanks sent me a pie. This is my family. The people who respect me. The people who cherish me. The people who would never, ever ask me to bleed for their vanity. I take a sip of coffee. Tastes like freedom. Before I go, I want to leave you with a few things I learned from the wreckage of my former life. I didn't just lose a father. I gained a philosophy. First, no is a complete sentence. You do not need to justify your boundaries. You do not need to explain why you won't be treated like a doormat. If someone gets angry when you set a boundary, that is the proof that the boundary was necessary. My father's rage at my no was not my failure. It was his exposure. Second, financial independence is freedom. They could control me because they thought I needed them. They thought I needed the inheritance, the connections, the safety net. But because I had my own trade, my own money, and my own house, I had the power to walk away. Never let anyone hold the purse strings of your life, because eventually, they will turn those strings into a noose. And finally, family first shouldn't mean you last. Narcissists use family as a weapon. They use it to silence you, to rob you, and to control you. But true family protects you. True family nurtures you. If your family asks you to set yourself on fire to keep them warm, they are not your family. They are your parasites. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to draw a hard line with a family member? Have you ever had to say no to the people you are supposed to say yes to? Let me know in the comments. Share your story, or if this story resonated with you. If you felt that moment of victory when Conrad was taken away, just comment good below. Tells me that we are in this together. building our own lives one brick at a time. I'm Everett Ashford. I'm an architect, and I'm finally free. Take care of yourselves and remember, protect your foundation.